Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a big day. I am releasing a track today and I'm gonna show you tips that made it sound insane. You will hear before and after, and you will hear how shitty it sounds before and how powerful it sounds after. And I'm gonna show you how I achieved that. What is the song? If you hate drama queens equally as I do, you may like it, but also you have to brace yourself for the impact and have enough nerves to experience the craziness. I fucking feel like it. Okay, so here is the drop. We're gonna start with the drop and we're gonna dive into other sections. It's gonna be a full breakdown of the mixing. And so I'm gonna go back and forth right now between the mixed version and between the unmixed. So this is the unmixed, this track with the brown color. Why brown color? Because it sounds like shit. So that's mainly the thing. Here is, I think, the biggest difference. It's just weak and it sounds like shit. Way more powerful. Okay, so those are stems. All of the individual tracks have been exported as stems, grouped, organized, and then processed. So most tracks have at least an EQ on them to adjust the tone, to cut unnecessary frequencies. So this is what's being done right here. So the drum section has this group of the kick and snare and the hats right here. And we have a little bit of processing on these things. Start with the kick. So I'm gonna tell you tricks that you can do to achieve certain things inside the mix. Maybe I'm not gonna go through the whole thing because it doesn't really make sense. Okay, so we got EQ for the kick. Changes the tone, makes it more boomy, makes it deeper, makes it hit harder. Now you can hear that, ooh, this is more sub. We're limiting and we're getting some of the tail. It becomes longer. Also, I had to use this limiter. I tried using ozone. You cannot use a clipper on this because if you use a clipper, then this has so much sub right here that if you just try to clip it, it's going to sound very distorted. Hell no. So clipping doesn't work. So you need some sort of limiter to be able to cut the peak, but don't create distortion. Ozone really does the same thing. It adds this annoying distortion, but the kilohertz limiter doesn't. But you gotta go with a release time of 23. If you go low, it does start to distort also. Okay, another thing to make it punch through the mix more is spiff. Adds this little click at the beginning of the kick, making it punch through the mix more because it has transient. It has this little click at the beginning so that it can punch through. The snare is the same, and that's mainly the drum section for this part. There's a little fade here leading to the snare. Helps with transitioning. On the whole thing, you can add glue compressor on the whole drums. Let's go here. This is the drum section, and you can use a glue compressor on very squash settings. Mix it a little bit. You can hear dynamics in this sound, very percussive. You can add a little bit of glue compression. To squash it, make it glue together as the name suggests. That's why this is here. And there's a limiter on the whole drums group because if you layer sounds together like this hat And this, you get spikes in volume. And also if you add spiff, which adds this click at the beginning, you get another spike in volume. So there is a limiter limiting everything and deleting these spikes right there. Controlling the whole sound. There's sidechaining going on, of course, as always, with two different LFOs. One of them is longer, perfect length, and one of them is shorter for the snare. Okay, so then the main group would sound like this. Super heavy, and it sounded like this, like shit. Very chaotic. So here's the sound at the beginning that hits. Every single time it hits differently. I mean, in here, it does hit differently as well. But what I did is I pulled up the original sound with the MIDI on it, and I resampled versions after versions, 56 versions of the same sound. Like that, to find the best takes, and I put those takes at the beginnings here, so that in a song what you get is you get the best takes. You don't get the random takes that come out of the MIDI that sound like shit. You get the best ones. Here's a take 56, here's a take 22, here's a take 35, and 22 again, and those just playing 4 times right here as the beginnings. And we've got this side cut on the EQ that cuts this. It sounds bad, it always sounds bad. If you add low frequencies on the sides, it always sounds very annoying and very messy, so I'm just deleting them. I hate them as much as I hate drama queens. And then we got this bass that is insane, that sounds like throwing up, but also sounds like a huge farts coming out of all sides. Oh, so you can hear just like right here. This is like click. It sounds like shit. So I have morphed these two sounds together so that the beginning is without that click. You just don't hear it. So all of these sounds are not just coming one after another. They're picked best takes and repeated. That's almost no processing. You can hear there's a few problems. Like this is playing on the sides. Very annoying. So we're cutting this. Right, way better. Then we have a little cut right here. It's mostly when sometimes these annoying frequencies are located, but not in every sound. It's like shh. Very annoying. Get rid of that. And we're boosting a little bit of the sides to make it wider. Very mono sound. You can just use side EQ. Make it wider. And then we're having a little bit of the boost on the sub. A little. To make it beefier. That's the whole EQ, ladies and gentlemen. So those are 2 sounds, and then we are having this group which is going here, so that's for later. So here's a sub actually playing layered with this. It sounds beefy on its own, but it's not as beefy as with the sub. And this sub, this is playing A note right here for whatever strange reason. Or C? Seems like it's playing C. Why did I think A? Seems like it's playing C or C sharp. And the bass is, you can see on this EQ, in this sound, and here, you can see that we're adding these frequencies, and that's what makes it beefier. Cleans up, adding this, making it sound beefier. And so why is there this cut here? This cut is here because you can hear this harmony. You can hear this in the song. Removing that with an EQ like this. And then we have lasers. You can see this spike right here. Cut it with a clipper, and this sound is not going to introduce any problems if we use a clipper because it is very percussive, very snappy, crunchy, and the clipper adds distortion, so it works with crunchy sounds. You can totally cut this. You can even cut it deeper. You can see it doesn't introduce many problems. And Valhalla Room is here to put the sound in space in a room, make it wider. See, it's very mono. Now it's more on the sides. We're using this short decay time. putting basically in this type of room, adding just a little bit of percentage. And here is this additional sweep with the reverb for the transition. And it repeats at the end here. Again for the transition. This vocal, ladies and gentlemen, it's crazy. This is the drama queen singing. Hence why it's so crazy, bro. Okay, the same reverb. Putting it in space, a little bit widening it. Very dark sound. You can hear that it's filtered. So EQ adds this top end. Adding a little bit of this annoyingness. And what are you doing? Oh, this is nice. It's adding these tiny volume spikes at the ends to make it more rhythmic and make it more vibey. I'm gonna make it 100%. It's more bouncy if we add this, but I don't want it to be so extreme, so I just added like 34%. So it adds a little volume dips at the ends and a little fades at the beginning, making this sound more rhythmic. So it flows better. It's very important to have these gaps in volume, to have like a little break before the drum hit. It just makes it like more groovy. And here breaks as well. It like stops right here and also breaks in the bass. If I do this, see, that doesn't work. You need this space here. So this is as well doing the same thing. That's the whole thing. I took this whole sound and adjusted the volumes manually to make it just fit perfectly, especially at the end here. Here it was just clicking. See? Very annoying. So fading to remove those clicks. That's why working on stems is nice, because you can just fade things in and you see the waveform, so you can easily eliminate unnecessary things from the waveform of the sound, like clicks. You have this layered sound in the background right here. See this, Owen? Totally unnecessary, and make it wider. Wider equals cooler, wider equals more interesting. Not always. Delete this with Soothe and add a little bit of room again with Valhalla. Room, a little fades. Maybe not the greatest quality sound, but it fits in the song. So here, this is important because without these EQs, this is what it sounds like. Super weak, but with. We didn't change the bass at all. We're just adding EQs. Simple thing you can do. Oh my god, what the hell? Simple thing you can do is you can just boost the lows, boost the sub. And sometimes you have to do this because the sounds are just weak. But they have the sub, so you can boost it. See, it changes a lot already. And this is kind of, this white noise is kind of piercing, so eliminating that too. And here's where you can find a little bit of strength in the sound as well. This is the most power where you can get in the sub, but this is really important too. It sounds weak without it as well, so we need that as well. Here we have another EQ, but this is making space for, I think, I actually don't know. Maybe it was just too mono. I actually don't know. Okay, here we have a little bit of more boost on the subs. It was just like a later adjustment. When I was comparing the subs of this section with this one, I was like, there's a lot of sub here, but there's not enough here. So just boosting it with an additional EQ. And again, fading things. So the shape works. You have a little fill here. Here we have another sound. This is gonna be pretty cool. So here you have this switch up. The vocal changes and the bass changes. So the bass without any effects. Again, similar situation, very weak. Boosting the subs, we don't need this on the sides. A little bit of deletion of this annoyingness. The way I do this is I just go through the sound. I very often go for this frequency region to find these annoying ones, and if you just cut them, sometimes you don't have to do that all the time because it's not always necessary, but sometimes you just go there and just cut these frequencies and it sounds cleaner, simply speaking. I just boost frequencies and I'm like, well, this kind of sucks, and I just cut it. So this boost right here on the sides is because we have this sound in the middle. As you can hear, this has subs, this one doesn't have subs. This is layered on top of this. On the sides, it's only going for this part right here, and it's being turned off right here. We don't need it here. So we got another EQ. Making space, I think it's again this EQ. I think this is for vocals. There's nothing else here. I think this is space for vocals. They do play in the middle. It surely is an EQ for vocals. You can hear how much they're clashing if this is turned off. So if the vocals are in the middle, you don't really have to delete all frequencies from the sound with a stereo EQ. You can just cut them in the middle because that's where the vocal is. And then this sound is not going to lose these frequencies. They're going to be playing on the sides. Adding some beef right here with these ones. Additional, you can woo. It's very powerful. Soothe is here for the sidechain. This is a trick that I discovered recently that it isn't just insane, and I think it should be illegal. This is for the vocals again. As you can see, the frequencies of the vocal are playing inside of Soothe. And they're being cut from this bass sound because they're being sidechained. This is the track, this is the vocal track, and they're being sidechained right here. Sidechain is turned on. So the vocal is being cut literally in real time from this bass sound, which is totally fucking insane. Making space for the vocal. Without. It's getting lost. And with, you're just getting more space, and I'm gonna boost it to show you how that sounds. Okay, so that's what we have, and here's this LFO. I honestly don't know if it's adding much, but this is what it's doing. I wanted it to be more like, so I added this LFO on top here. And I committed to it because it sounds okay. Here for this layer. Also EQ'd. Very annoying here. See how annoying this is if we don't put in EQ on the sides. Way cleaner. And this sound, more like a background sound. It's nice actually if it is wider. It fills out more space and more frequencies. It glues the sounds together actually. That's mainly it. And here we have this sound, which is this. But it is on a separate track because it needs separate processing. So this is what that was. It was very muddy and very dark. We don't need that. We need a top layer for this another sound. But you can see now it's playing in the middle. It's like playing like right here. This sound is here and it's playing is right here. That doesn't fit. And so that's why there's hash effect. Delaying one of the stereo channels and making the sound wider, even though it's playing in mono. One channel is normal timing and then another is delayed. You get this. Very wide and clean sound. Again, boosting the lows. So weak. more powerful. Okay, so how much should you boost the lows? And the answer is very simple. You can boost, if this is enough, boost this amount. If this is enough, boost this amount. If this is enough, boost this amount. And if you get too much sub, you can cut it. There's no rule about like, oh, this is too much or this is, no, it's not too much. It's simply, if that's what the sound needs, that's what you do. So this is what the sound needed. That's why there's a plus 7.49 dB of boosting, not less, not more. This is what the sound needed. So balancing things is the key. Here is something that I did because I had this loop. Hats are just all over the place. So what I wanted is to have more control over the panning of these hats. So I just separated them into different channels and I panned them where I wanted them to be. So it's more like in the same place, not sometimes here and sometimes there, all over the place. If it is all over the place, this is what it sounds like. So then that's separated, that's panned. We have the reverb to put it in space, this type of space. Like if you don't put reverb, it is a bit too dry, so it benefits from the reverb, and it's very bright too. So filtering that top a little bit. Then we have OTT, making it both more snappy and more squashed. This is where you adjust the timing. The timing is higher. Higher means more snappy and lower means squashed. So this is what worked. You get this kind of like sweet tone to the hats as well. A little bit of saturation. The default preset in Thermal adds distortion or saturation. So it's beefier, and then we're cutting the lows that the distortion is adding, or the lows that have been already there, and doing some extra tone control, cutting these annoying frequencies and limiting the tops too without the processing with, or here it's gonna sound better. Hell yeah, man, be hearing this and be like, hell yeah. Drum fill. As you can see, most of the things are just heavy cues to match the tones. There's a pre-kick that introduces another kick that's filtered. Instead of this, you get this. So that is the drop section, ladies and gentlemen, and all the processing work that has been done on this. The second drop is just the same. It just has this layer that initially was like this. Very annoying. Here's where it was annoying. Here's some another crazy EQ. I've been just going, finding frequencies that are annoying and just cutting them. And here's another EQ. To cut this like throat sound and boosting the volume with limiter, and that works as a layer. The vocal goes down. The rest is just the same. A very good way to mix is to just solo one thing. And I like to start with the bass. Make the bass sound good on its own in solo. Before we go any further, there's this thing. And this is a dynamic EQ shape because what I wanted is I wanted to have more sub on this, but if I just boost the sub, the sound, the volume of the sub goes like this. It's very unpredictable. So we need something that will keep the sub level the same, even though the volume of the sub is changing. So I boosted very high and then made it dynamic. So the volume of the sub is staying on one place because it's being constantly compressed. See? This is the sidechaining for the kick to make it connect to better with the sub, with the bass. And here's another one for the snare. You can start with the bass, that's what I like to do, and then you go and connect elements together. So you solo another sound and you connect it, you EQ it, you add, you cut what's unnecessary, you boost what you need more. You connect these two sounds tonally, and then you solo another sound. EQ it. Oh. Cut this is very annoying. It's like... And then you connect another sound, another sound, another sound until you have the whole thing, everything glued together. I've been reusing this so much. So this group, and I needed the space on it for this. So I put a soothe. And inside soothe, we've got the sidechaining for this vocal. Right. See how it's just making space for that vocal? I've been using this so much in this project. It's such a good technique. Here's again, using that on a different vocal. On this one. Same sidechaining, just frequencies of the vocal, all of them being sidechained. But also, and same was in this sound. Only there's sidechaining because this sound is playing in the middle. We don't need to delete these frequencies from the whole sound. We just need to delete them from the middle. That's why there's mid-side mode, and there are only frequencies in the mid that are being sidechained, and the same thing goes here. If I go full frequency spectrum, we're just losing too much. But if only in the middle, we're losing the middle signal, a little bit of it, but the stereo is being unaffected. So we are still having sounds on stereo, and we need them, and the vocal is mono, in the middle. It's very useful. Without. With. Or here. See how much space it makes? But I didn't go crazy on this because I didn't want to separate the instruments too much, so I just went for like 6 only. A classic thing, if you see a vocal that has spikes like this, you gotta slap a limiter on it and just cut those peaks, because like, what is even the point of this, of these spikes? They're just adding volume. Totally useless. So there's a limiter, it's cutting them. And cutting a little bit more to squash the sound even further. Okay, so this sound, it's kind of too quiet sometimes, but sometimes too loud. So here's too loud, and here I'm introducing it. So this is the volume automation. It was just getting very loud right here. Super loud, we don't need that at all, we need it to be controlled. So we have the volume, the gain automation, and introducing the sound a little bit. So this whole drum loop been completely changed from this. Clap. Long. I put a transient shaper on this. Decrease the tail. Make it snappier. Make it a little bit more transient, heavy, more punchy at the beginning. And clip this. Because as you can see, spiky. So clip it, and then because clipping adds distortion, and we also need some tone change, tone adjustment. That's why there's EQ here. Then another clap. I just put the same processing on it. Transient shaping changed a little bit. Clipping and tone change. Here we have this. Again, tone change and the kick. Boosting the bottom. We get this on the whole thing. There's a little EQ to like give it a final touch, but also make it fit in the mix, because this was not really, this was standing out too much, really annoying. And there's soothe for the vocals on the whole thing, because these are just getting lost here. Without. So you can hear them better.
Shut the fuck up!
Okay, here's something that I did in this vocal. This was the original.
Shut the fuck up!
This is fade. Cut that. Put it on a different track. We need the volume to be equal. That's why we're compressing. The volume is equal. Cutting this low. It's like clicky or punchy, like boxing.
Shut the fuck up!
Hell no.
Shut the fuck up!
We need the noisy sound.
Shut the fuck up!
There's a little bit of volume change on the master because sometimes when you're down on a track, sometimes sections are not matched in terms of volume. So you can put simply a utility on the master and just gain them. Like here's like +1 dB going down and here's going up because this was not matched when it comes to volume.
Shut the fuck up!
This is very loud, but here it's not too loud.
Shut the fuck up!
So it's getting louder.
Shut the fuck up!
Probably could have made that even louder. So here was one problem that I encountered is that this is ending here. The tail is ending here, right? So we need to continue going, not stop. Like so. That's why there's a reverb automation on the dry wet. So there's a reverb that continues. Here's a sound that is more heavily processed. EQ for the tone. Add this, make it punchy. Make it wide without introducing phase issues. Chop the tops and then cut the lows. And in the mix it works. Most of the sounds just have EQs and some of them have specific EQs like this, as you can see. Don't be afraid to EQ the sounds heavily because this is sometimes what they need. It's to be EQ'd very specifically and very harshly so that they receive a certain tone so that it fits in a track. So don't be afraid of that. Oh, this one fits more if we make it wider, but less in the middle. It gets more spacious, it gets more in the background, it goes around the vocals, which are playing in the middle. I'm gonna go through what's on the master. This track is mostly relying on the mix to sound powerful. And so there's not many things on the master. There's like almost nothing on the master. There's low cut on the sides. Get rid of this. Totally unnecessary. Then we have a limiter and that's it. There's boosting. We're squashing the dynamics. Making a sausage out of it. Even if you go into loudness monitoring, you can see here that this is totally outside of the recommended -14 LUFS. It says that dynamics are fine, but this is around like -8, -7, 8. And I mean, personally, I don't really care. That's how it's supposed to sound like. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do to make it -14 LUFS so that Spotify likes it? I don't really understand. I can make it quieter. Is that what that's about? Makes no sense. This is what I can do. Make this quieter on this one, on the output. Now, see that? Here we go. But that makes zero sense. It just makes zero sense. This is what makes sense. This is a sausage. That's how it's supposed to sound like. It's supposed to be loud. It's supposed to be normalized. And Spotify wants. It can push the volume down. I haven't heard any difference in quality or in anything after uploading very squashed, like a sausage songs to Spotify. I don't see any difference. And I know people do this too. I don't know what's the point of -14 LUFS. Like, what's the point of following that? That's it, I think, for this video. I hope this was useful. Hope you learned something new. Check out the track, link in the description. Check out oversample.us for sound. Have a great day and see you soon.